Southern Africa is vulnerable to and often struck by natural disasters. Floods, drought, bushfires and tropical storms repeatedly cause very difficult living conditions. Only efficient disaster prevention is ultimately able to counter such developments. The Federal Foreign Office of Germany has developed a concept for disaster prevention which is now implemented in Mozambique and the Southern African region. What becomes clear is that the problems can't be managed by a centralistic structure. Readiness for action has to be ensured at all levels: the population, the politicians and the authorities. $1 invested in disaster prevention can save you a potential $7. In close cooperation with the National Disaster Management Institute in Mozambique, INGC, InWent, Capacity Building International Germany, developed a human resource development program for disaster risk reduction, implemented on behalf of the German Foreign Office. The program started in 2002 in Mozambique. It focused on strengthening the coordination and management capacities of the INGC and cooperating institutions.
The main purpose of INGC is to coordinate information as far as disaster management is concerned.
Since May 2002, more than 1,000 participants from responsible authorities and institutions from national down to community level have been trained in the following fields: 25% in awareness, 16% in information management, 8% in communication and moderation, 10% in administration and logistics, 16% in planning and management, 8% in training the trainers, 1% study tours, 3% in English courses, 3% in information technology, and 10% in the role of the media. In 2004, the project began to reach out to other countries in the Southern African region. Delegates of 11 SADC countries agreed to form a cross-boundary network for disaster prevention. InWent builds human capacity through training, policy dialogue and network building in cooperation with INGC, UNISDR and other institutions related to disaster management. The main target groups are personnel from National Disaster Management and Civil Protection Units, but target groups also include NGOs and other stakeholders. Training needs arise mainly in the fields of information management and cooperation. The training modules concentrate on awareness building, knowledge transfer and skills training. Torsten Wegner, here still working for the German Red Cross during the flood disaster in 2001, is the project coordinator for InWent in Mozambique and responsible for the implementation of the program in the region. InWent Germany is involved in organizational development and institutional improvements in support of sustainable development.
Since worldwide disaster prevention and disaster mitigation becomes more and more important, InWent decided to add this very important sector to one of its business fields. That means to crisis prevention and peace development. We believe in people, and that means we concentrate our work in mobilizing knowledge as a development resource, and we are supporting the people's ability to really play an active part to prevent and mitigate disasters.
InWent's programs concentrate on capacity development. Capacity development is the process of strengthening legal, organizational, institutional and intra-institutional capabilities of institutions in charge of disaster management at 3 different levels. Fostering decision-making and action competence of specialists and executives, strengthening the performance of institutions and organizations in the public and private sector, shaping frameworks for political institutions through political dialogue and by creating learning networks. In August 2004, at a planning conference in Pretoria on sector-crossing information management for transboundary disaster prevention and preparedness, 11 countries of the Southern African Development Community decided on their training needs. A working group representing 6 SADC countries will decide on the development of a training and activity plan for the next year. The senior regional officer of ISDR, Feng Min Kan, was also invited, who underlined,
and capacity building and information management are the 2 most important elements in disaster risk reduction. Reducing human, economic, and environmental losses from disasters are a global challenge to development. And sustainable development cannot be achieved unless social, environmental, and technological vulnerability is taken into account.
A Southern African Vulnerability Atlas has been put on the internet in cooperation with the South African National Disaster Management Centre as a first step. Further priorities of the network include the development of regional concepts for disaster prevention, regional training guidelines for human resource development, and last but not least, the raising of public awareness through cooperation with local media. As pointed out in the preparative process of the WCDR, capacity development and information management are 2 key elements for disaster risk reduction. This pilot project contributes to developing transboundary concepts for natural disaster prevention and supports the building of networks for efficient and sustainable disaster reduction in the Southern African region.